Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to the Her Royal Roots YouTube channel. We are journeying through the book of Second Samuel, and we are in chapter 13. We're in Second Samuel, it's good, chapter 13. All right, so I wanted to start with a couple of things. First, I did put like a warning, like a trigger alert for this particular lesson. This particular lesson is extremely heavy, especially because it covers the topic of rape. And this week, because of that, we will be hosting a after the lesson session where we will have counselors in the room on Patreon. And so if you haven't signed up or if you're on Patreon, go over and sign up. If you're just going over for today for any particular reason, that particular session will be public on Patreon. It will be public on Patreon, but of course, for all the patrons, you will have access through the Patreon platform. So after the lesson today, head over to Patreon. The link and information for the Zoom session will be posted in the public forum. So there will be things for those of you who are not patrons that may not be visible, but that will be visible to the general public. And we will kind of unpack and talk about some of the things that are addressed and answer any questions. I am not a licensed therapist, and so we will have at least one licensed therapist and at least two social workers in the room. If there is additional needs after this lesson, you will be given information to reach out to individuals who are trained to deal with trauma response. So sorry that we have to begin that way, but I don't want to begin this lesson without setting a proper platform. I don't want anybody to go into this lesson if you haven't pre-read chapter 13 and be caught completely off guard. If you do have children that are watching, I would suggest this not be a video for your children to watch without you first discussing the information that will be shared today in a private setting, because there is no gentle way to approach the atrocities that we're going to see this week. And also, there's no way to cover or mask the traumas that I'm going to address that have taken place in the Hebrew community post-slavery, in our homes and in other places. So I just wanted to give that warning from the beginning. I want those of you who need the opportunity to take a deep breath before we go into it. It's not graphic. It's just that anytime you begin to talk about something that is trauma triggering, I think there should be some warning for the information that we're going to unpack. So the way today's lesson is going to go is I can't really just jump right into 2 Samuel chapter 13. It would be reckless because there's a lot of questions that are going to come up as we move through the text. So what we're going to do is deal with sin, the responsibility of sin, and we're going to deal with this issue of rape and seduction first, because there are some very misleading thoughts about how Yah feels about the mistreatment of the daughters of Zion because of trauma-induced interpretation, interpreting things through a trauma lens or through a negative view of patriarchy, and to think that Yah just allows things because of how they're translated by European writers is unfortunate, because it's not Yah's heart. And as we begin to understand Yah's heart and as we begin to read his word, what we realize is that certain things have not been conveyed to us properly. And so any of you who have done any research on the transatlantic slave trade and the traumas of the misuse of the Bible, you'll realize that a lot of things are translated certain ways because of the translator's bias or a certain thing that was they were trying to push or propagate which within the Israelite community as we were disenfranchised and placed into the hands of our enemies due to our disobedience. So we're going to fix some of those things, really realign our lens to Yah, because I think a lot of women and men, but a lot of women have a disconnected relationship with Yah because of traumas that they've experienced, whether they've been mental, physical, or emotional. And we don't see where our community has protected us, even inside of this, the Hebrew walk, and us coming into the knowledge of who we are. There are still areas of misalignment with the garden and protecting of the daughters of Zion. And so today we're going to really align those things back into place and align ourselves with the scripture so that as we go through 2 Samuel 13, we can really see how horrendous the act was in that, in the text, but also how everything played out and what Yah's perspective was in it all. All right, so all sin has an assigned responsibility. All sin has assigned a responsibility. Either the sin is upon a person, the nation, or a sacrificial animal. There is no sin that does not affect something or someone. The sin of David and Bathsheba fell on the whole house of Israel, but specifically on the house of David. It affected David's house, but then the whole house of Israel was affected by those actions. How sin manifests is scary. Many people think they can handle the consequences of their sins, and to those sins begin to bear its wicked fruit. We cannot begin to imagine the wickedness that can come from the fruit of our disobedience. As we look out over our nation currently, every atrocity and injustice is a direct result of disobedience. The children have eaten bitter grapes, as the scripture says, and their teeth are set on edge due to their parents' neglect of Yah's vineyard. Any areas of negligence as parents, as leaders, as a community can have a rippling effect that really we seem to struggle to get our hands on, to draw in the reins, and only Yah can reverse that. And we are beginning to see that as we walk in his laws, statutes, and commandments. Yahuwah told David in chapter 12 that the sword would not depart from his house. This meant that on multiple levels, not just in the sense that there will be war, but even that his children would be cut off. And we're going to see that this week. Cut off from the world to come, cut off from this life, and cut off from their people because of their iniquities. What we're going to see today is how our sin can ravage our homes and advance our children's path to Sheol. Today's lesson is a reminder to get it together now and to live upright and righteous before the Father. Our sins don't stop with us. They grow roots spiritually and physically and bring judgment to our offspring. We're going to start today by putting some laws and cultural nuggets into our minds. Then we'll dive into the story concerning Absalom, Amnon, and Tamar. We're going to start going back to Torah as we have always done, and we're going to look at what Yah thinks about rape. Now, interestingly enough, as we begin to navigate through here, you'll understand that rape is not a normal in our culture. What we experience now on the other side of slavery is the evidence of the curses upon our people. So we're going to walk through and we're going to read why Yah set up certain laws. We're going to look at these laws. We're going to look at their consequences and align them properly. So I'll do a bit of screen sharing and I'll do some back and forth, but I'll try to take my time so that this portion of the video can be very, very fluid and you can refer back to it later. All right, so we're going to start in Leviticus chapter 18. Leviticus chapter 18. And we're going to start right at verse 1. So Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 1. And the program that I'm using to share this information is called Logos. It has a free version, a paid version. I am using a advanced paid version, which is why I'm able to access some of these things, and I'm clicking on words. And if you have any questions, we will post the link for this particular program set in the description. All right, start at Leviticus chapter 18, verse 1. And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am Yahuwah your Elohim, after the doings of the land of Egypt, or Mitzrayim, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, it's where I'm going to bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances. Ye shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk therein. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am Yahuwah. Now he goes into what we're going to deal with right off the bat is he's going to go into proper relationship. So Yah gives definitive commands to the children of Israel concerning the practices of the nations that they dwelt with and that were in the land before them. These practices, amongst others, are not supposed to be immolated, nor are these practices to be tolerated throughout the tribes of the children of Israel. The listed issues are stated as things that occur within these other cultures, and they pertain to unnatural affections, abominations, and incestuous relationships. So Yah is going to go into it. I know a question is going to come up right off the bat, because we have Abraham and Sarah, right? Before we even get into it, Abraham and Sarah were called out of a pagan and a disobedient society. So we can't use situations pre-Torah to define how we do things. And I say that to mean there are things where there were laws pre-Torah, pre-Mosaic written law. But over time, people begin to live and those things get convoluted. And so when Yah had Moshe pen Torah through the inspiration of his Ruach, literally face to face in some settings with Yah, writes these laws under the careful watch of Yah, he's setting in order anything that could be misconstrued. So anything that was done before this and anything done after the writing of the law that does not directly line up is in disobedience. Now, what Yah does about it and how he executes his judgment, that is his business. That is how he's exercising his law, because he, as the lawgiver, has the right to apply the law justly based upon the situation and the circumstance. We don't get to fiddle and fumble around with Yah's law. And when Yah does apply something and he does move in a way that may seem contrary, there is explanation, just like in the previous chapter when David, right, commits adultery. We know the sin for adultery is death. But then Yah stays that because of, and he goes on to say why, but it doesn't stop death. Death is released in another way. See, we don't have the ability to choose how we can move the tide of judgment, where Yah is looking and moving according to his will in a more national sense. So to kill David would mean his sin is now going to cause all of Israel to go back into captivity, because then their enemies are going to rise up against them, and you can see the trickle effect. So he gets to live, but then there's other things that are happening, and that's the effects of that are going to be shown literally throughout the rest of 2 Samuel all the way to the end. Okay, but I want to cover that because I'm not going to go a lot into Abraham and Sarah, because if you didn't know, Abraham and Sarah are half brother and sister. He says that when he goes, "Oh, you lied to me," said to your wife. He's like, "Well, actually, we have the same father, but not the same mother." So just keep that in mind as we're going through the text. But even Yah corrects that that relationship. And all right, so none of you. So let's just go start at verse 6. Verse 6. So we're in Leviticus 18, verse 6. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. This literally means to have relations with them. I am Yahuwah, the nakedness of your father or the nakedness of your mother. Now, I know it's difficult because everybody's like, who would do that? Yeah, I already said this is what the nations before you were doing. So people were and still do, unfortunately, these acts. And this is not supposed to exist within Israel. He said, the nakedness of your father or the nakedness of your mother shall thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife shall thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or the daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. Okay. So that means if you're, and we see it more often than not now, where if your dad has a child by somebody else and like, oh, well, we got the same mama, so we brother and sister, we don't have the same, that whole, no, half brothers and half sisters cannot uncover one another's nakedness, whether you knew her as your sister or not, whether you grew up together or not. That's not a stipulation. The answer is no. Okay. The nakedness of thy son's daughter or of thy daughter's daughter, even their nakedness shall thou not uncover, for theirs is thine own nakedness, niece or nephew, right? The nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister. She is thy father's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, for she is thy mother's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother. Thou shalt not approach to his wife. She is thine aunt. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law. She is thy son's wife. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife. It is thy brother's nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Neither shalt thou take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness, for they are her near kinswomen. It is wickedness. Neither shalt thou take a wife to her sister to vex her, to uncover her nakedness, because the other in her lifetime, beside the other in her lifetime. Also, thou shalt not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness, as long as she is put apart for her uncleanliness. Okay, so if a woman is unclean, you cannot lay with her. That is against Torah. So that means if a woman is on her cycle within the days of her uncleanliness, she is unclean. You can't do it. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire unto Moloch, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy Elohim. I am Yahuwah. And it says, thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. So going through these abominations now. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereunto. It is confusion. Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things, for in all these things the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. So you may think, oh, people don't do that. No, he's saying these people who don't have Torah, they do these things. And he says, and the land is defiled. Therefore, I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomiteth out her inhabitants. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations. neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger. So you can't bring your strange practices, stranger, in here. Stranger that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done. The people of the land have done these, which were before you, and the land is defiled. That the land spew you not out also, when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that are before you. For whosoever commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people. Now, the word here, karat, right? So we can see it here. The word karat means to be cut off or cut down. And so it can mean a couple of things. It can mean to, in this particular context, to be cut off, meaning ostracized from the community, kicked out, you can't be here anymore. It can mean literally cut off from life, to be cut out of, the covenant of life by being killed. And it can also mean to be cut off from the afterlife. When we go to the Brit Kadashah, we see that it says people who are whoremongers and people who practice abominations, and all these, says they have no inheritance in the kingdom of heaven, saying that, yes, they're alive, but they will not make it into Yah's kingdom. He says they are pretty much walking dead. Once they die, they will experience second death, and they will forever be cut off because they have chosen to practice the practices of wickedness and unrighteousness. So when it says cut off from your people, it can mean three things: cut off, being ostracized, needing to then repentance and be brought back into the community. The other one is to literally be killed, and also to be cut off from the inheritance of the life to come, or the world to come. So those are very important, because we're going to see some of that a little more today. And he says, therefore shall ye keep mine ordinance, that ye commit not any of these abominable customs which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourselves therein. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. All right, let's look at Leviticus. Look at that passage of sisters. So we're going to go to Leviticus chapter 20, and we're going to begin right around verse 10 to 18, I'm sorry. So Leviticus 20, and we're going to go right around 10. All right, might as well start at 1. Why not? Maybe some people haven't heard it. And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe, saying, again, so he says again, so he's serious about it. Thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Moloch, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones, and I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he hath given his seed unto Moloch. So immediately you see that this cutoff is cut off unto death. You kill him, he's cut off from the people. And if the people of the land do any ways hide their eyes from the man when he giveth his seed unto Moloch, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go a whoring after him to commit whoredom with Moloch from among their people. And the soul that turneth after such as familiar spirits, and after wizards to go a whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. Sanctify yourselves, therefore, and be ye holy, be ye set apart, be ye Kodesh, for I am Yahuwah your Elohim. And ye shall keep my statutes and do them. I am Yahuwah which sanctify you, for everyone that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. So this is that amendment, not to change it, but to add to honor your mother and father. Curse means to treat them like they're trifling. It means to treat your mother and father as a light thing. I thought I should put that there, because that is something that people in our nation struggle with. It doesn't have with it any addendum to allow you to do this. And so it means to curse them, means to, literally, the word means trifling, to treat them as they're what they've done, and bringing you into this world and caring for you is a light matter. And it says his blood shall be upon him. And so scripture also teaches that this commandment is the first one with a promise. You curse your parents, you treat them as lightly, you will die. And the reason why is twofold. You will follow a path of destruction, because if you can't honor your parents, and guess what? How can you honor Yah? And also your parents may very well kill you. So this says his blood shall be upon him. And that goes back to my initial statement of sin, and the blood of sin has to fall on someone. So you curse your parents, and if they have to kill you, your blood is upon you, it's upon your own head. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. Okay, so that's both of them. Now we're getting into this distribution of sin. The reason why this is important is because when it comes to these laws, we're going to read about rape and seduction. There is a distribution of sin. I went through all this because you need to see how the law works. You need to see how Yah's law is just, and you need to see it applied in the text in similar ways. I could just do what people do and do the light version of line upon line, precept upon precept. But as you're looking through the laws and how they're grouped in a way to give you an explanation for what the punishment looks like. The categories and the punishment are juxtaposed. Okay, so the adulterer and the adulteress shall be put to death. Both of them. It's a consensual act. And the man that lieth with his father's wife hath uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death, and their blood shall be upon them. So we read in Leviticus 18 where it gives you what you shouldn't do. Now we get the punishment that comes with what you shouldn't do, the direct punishment of it. It's not just, oh, they shall be cut off. Now Yah saying, and the cutoff looks like, and the punishment looks like, and the consequence looks like. Okay. If a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. This is, they said, they have wrought confusion, their blood shall be upon them. All of these acts we're seeing before here are consensual, and thus the punishment falls on both parties. Okay. If a man lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination, and they shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Okay. So that means that there's no sacrifice for that. There's no like, well, let's make it. No, Yah's saying, no, you don't get to kill an animal. You don't get to put on anybody else. It's on you, and you have to bear the consequence of your sin. And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness, and they shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among them. So now we know a wife and their mother means he's taking them both. I married the wife, and then I have a wife, and I married her mother as well. They shall be both burnt in fire, him and the women. It's consensual. They agree to it, that there be no wickedness among you. If a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and you shall slay the beast. Now, a beast is a beast, but that can't be in Israel either. So you kill that animal and you kill that person. And if a woman approach unto a beast and lie down thereto, thou shalt kill the woman and the beast. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And if a man shall take his sister, here we are, we're getting closer to our area. Now you're going to see it. His father's daughter or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing, and they shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He hath uncovered his sister's nakedness, he shall bear his iniquity. Now, this one we have to look at closely, because this is actually the law that applies to our situation in our text. We're going to see a couple of them, but this one specifically. And I went through the last couple of weeks trying to find where the law was that applied, because when we go to the betrothed and the unbetrothed and the virgin, when it's concerning either rape or seduction, neither one of those directly applied to the text. They apply in the spirit of the law, of course, but the consequences that were to be imputed in our chapter 13 to Amnon, it sat in a place of like, okay, that applies, but then there's nothing that talks about the young woman who is a virgin in her home and is taken advantage of. This particular text, though, we can't quite see it in English. And so last night we were looking over this text and we were pulling it apart. And in English, it took us to actually go through some punctuation and to pull it together. So we're going to look at it in English, and I'm going to show you some keywords in this text in Hebrew. And this gives us, once again, a shameless plug on why we need to learn our language. It has been interpreted for us by a culture of people who don't understand the Hebrew culture, don't understand how things are said in the Hebrew language, and it leaves room for us to have doubt in our scriptures, especially in situations of rape and molestation and areas where it seems like it's ambiguous, and Yah is not ambiguous about anything. Now, to the translators, the good is that when he translated in English, we also need to learn how to read English if you're reading in English, because the colon in this text is what aligns something with the first part of the text. So the colon here, where it says, colon, he hath uncovered his sister's nakedness, it goes back to something that we're going to see in the Hebrew that the translator added, so that if you are a proper English reader, you would have known that this was here in some way, shape, or form. So the text says, if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness. So if we go down to verse 17 here in the Hebrew, and it's not, obviously, if you don't know anything about translation yet, translation is not a word for word in that way. So it's sometimes thought for thought. When you're trying to translate, you have to bring it into the mind of the English reader. So it says, and a man which takes, okay? And then this et is a direct object marker. What is he taking? He's taking his sister, okay? The daughter, bat, of his father, or, the bat of his mother. So the man who takes. And he says, and sees, and it's going to go nakedness, but et, nakedness, tells us specific nakedness, her nakedness, okay? So this man is seeking to see or to take or to pursue his sister, okay? And then it says, and she, okay? Now this is where it changes. It says tier A. So this tav here tells us, and she will. So he is for sure in this text here. If you look down here at the bottom, at the very bottom of the screen, I can't scroll down and show you, but it talks about a conjunction, vav, with the verb ra'ah, and it's in the kal or the kal, and it's in the perfect tense, which means that he has done it, or he is doing it, right? He is uncovering his sister's nakedness. And it's in the third person masculine, singular. It means to see, but it literally means to lay eyes on, and not just to see it, but in the first part it says, which will take and see. So he's literally sleeping with his sister, okay? Or is seeking to sleep with her. And in this verse says, and then she will, right? This one here is in the imperfect tense. This is in the imperfect tense. So it means he's doing it, right? Or he's pursuing it. And now she is also agreeing to this particular act. So it gives on that side, she may not, and she will. So it's saying if she will agree to it, the text says, then it is a wicked thing, right? And they shall be cut off in the sight of their people. If they agree on this act, he pursues her nakedness, she returns and sees his and pursues his nakedness, and they come together, that is wickedness, and they shall both be cut off. Now, the English does the very thing the Hebrew is going to do, which is : he hath uncovered his sister's nakedness, and he shall bear his iniquity. So that seems like a contradiction, because in the first part, they both will. But that she will part, that she will see, gives the fact that if she doesn't, and then this man pursues his sister's nakedness, then he has to bear the iniquity. That means that that was not consensual, and he will bear the iniquity. And that takes on that same threefold. He will be cut off from his people. He will be cut off in the world to come, or he will be literally killed. And so when people look at this issue of punishment for people who have done things, and they look out, and especially people who have been in traumatic situations, and you look out toward your accuser and you say, well, this person is just living their life, and they don't have they've never asked for forgiveness, and they've done these things for me, and they've and we go on and we want to rack our brains about it. What the scripture tells us is he will, or she will, bear her or his iniquity. And that means that their blood will be on their own heads. Person that does not seek repentance, does not change their lives, there is no hope for them in the life to come. So I know a lot of people, especially if you've been in a situation like this, whether it is brother or close kin or family, and you wonder, like, how can everybody just sit around and allow this person to be this? Yah has cut them off from the life to come. And so really right now is Yah's grace and mercy of allowing a person to come to the realization of their sin. It could be that, or, which I lean more to, we are out of our land, and it's part of the being outside of our laws. There is not judgment in this nation to be executed on people in that manner. And even when it is, it takes a lot for the person who has been put in that position to bring forth accusation. And we'll get into this a little bit more today, because families like to cover sin. Families like to cover wickedness. And that's also a part of the curses. And so even when people come forth, we have a trouble with it, because then the family doesn't want to uncover the wickedness, as mentioned in the passage above, right? You are allowing these things to happen, and then you're turning a blind eye to it, which means that also the family who allows this runs the risk of also being cut off in the life to come, because we don't have the proper systems in place to execute the judgment of cutting them off in this world, or kicking them out of a community that we don't have in full function. But the proper thing for a family to do, even in this land, is to literally get that person out, to expose that, and to push them out. But if they don't, then they are also choosing to bear the iniquity, to bear the blood, to bear the punishment of that person. I wanted to set that into place, because that is what our situation this week is going to rise and fall on. Okay, so let's deal with, we dealt with adultery. Now let's deal with just these next two, about the rape of the betrothed and the unbetrothed. And we're going to get some Hebrew perspective on those, and then we're going to get into our text. So let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 22. Deuteronomy chapter 22. And the conversation begins right around chapter 22, verse 22. Now, this is dealing with the bringing a legal case, property, and the mishandling of such. Now, we talked in previous lessons about property, and about women being property, and about men being property, and oxen. And we talked about the idea that something that is somebody's property is not something that somebody lords over or misuses, but something that is someone's property is something that is a responsibility for that person, and they have to care for it with their life. They have to treat it well. You can't mistreat something. You should treat it as your own self. It is likened to you. okay, like into you. So not this westernized idea that you're my property and I can do whatever I want to you, like slavery has allowed people to think, especially in the Black community. No, we're talking about proper care. We're never talking about the perversion of something when we're dealing with Yah's law, but we're talking about the proper expression thereof. All right, so let's go down to verse 22. It says, if a man be found lying with a woman married to an husband, then they shall both of them die, both the man that lie with the woman and the woman. So shalt thou put away evil from Israel. Okay, so this is consensual. They've decided they want each other. They understand their commitment to the people that they are with, and they decide to pursue it. They shall die. Okay, now this is our law for our land. We don't live in our land, so you can't kill people. These rages of passion, you have to know that they then are cut off. That is the proper function. If you pursue this and a person does this and they continue in this unrepentant, there is no place for them in the world to come. There just isn't. Okay. If a damsel that is a virgin, okay, be betrothed unto a husband, and a man find her in the city and lie with her, they shall bring them both out unto the gate of the city, and you shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he hath humbled his neighbor's wife. So thou shalt put away evil from among you. Okay, so this is a virgin. So let's go to verse 23 so we get our Hebrew words. Okay, so it's a young man, a na'ar, all right, and a betula. This is a, here we go, I'm pull up the words for you guys. So young woman, young man, na'ar, young woman, na'ara, two young people, okay? And then she is a betula. Let's click on the word. It means she is a virgin. That means she has not been with a man, but she is betrothed unto a husband, okay? So betrothed is a Hebrew word, aras, and it literally means to a person that has paid the price and has gained right to possession to this person. Now, this can be at any age before a person is, married. Families in the Hebrew culture, we had a way of doing things. So a family came together and they decided on certain things. Marriage was one of them. It wasn't this idea of perverted arranged marriage. It wasn't just so the dad could make money. We talked about this. If you've seen The Covenant of the Woman, it's a video I have. It's an older video, but it talks about what is Yah's covenant with the woman. We know that his covenant in the flesh of the man is circumcision. Well, the covenant in the flesh of the woman is her virginity. And so the parents are responsible for circumcising the boys and making sure that they don't participate in whoredom, because their bodies have been consecrated to serve Yah and their bodies have been set apart for their wife. Same way for the young girl. She does not have circumcision, but she's actually born, if you will, circumcised. She has the body makeup that her womb is closed off from the outside world. Her body is set apart from the time she's born. And so the family is responsible for keeping that. Yah essentially sets up the woman and consecrates her body. And so we have a right, Yah has a right, one, to tell us what to do with our bodies, but we also have a responsibility to keep that. So the parents are the ones who have to keep that. So that, we'll get into that today too, with the involvement of male and female presence and relationship and who's allowed around your sons and your daughters. It's super important. We are, as parents, and our parents were supposed to be to us pretty much the lords or the masters over our bodies, so that they stood in the gap between us and the outside world to make sure that our temples were not defiled. So I'll add this in here because I think it's a good place. If something happened before you were caring for yourself, that blood or that situation is on your parents' head. It's not on your head. That's not your problem to or weight to bear in that way. You are by law, by birth, by right, supposed to be protected from everything and everyone by your parents. That is their job. You're not supposed to be passed off and looked after by somebody else. It is their job to look after you, to make sure that your temple stays pure and that the covenant of your body stays intact. Okay. So when it comes to betrothal, a family then can come together, because I have been watching over the covenant of this child, and now they're approaching toward the marriage age. And it can be one or two things. A family can say, this family has raised up a son in the same way that we have raised up our daughter. And we would like to come into covenant as families, saying that we are also going to continue in covenant, in the covenant of Yah, and overseeing their relationship. We're going to be witnesses to their union to make sure that we as two families produce further righteous seed. Okay, so that's why you don't just give your daughter to anybody. So you don't just give your son to anybody. You don't just marry anyone, because those are, the agreement should have started from the time that those two individuals were children. And so with the virgin that's been betrothed, it means that the family has put in all this work. The family has made sure that this young woman has been raised a certain way, and that other family has made sure that this young man has been raised a certain way, and they have been in relationship and everything's going good. And a man find her in the city and lie with her. It means that after everything that this family has done and your family has done for you, you met a boy in the city and he looked good, or you met a girl in the city and she looked good, and you laid with somebody else, knowing everything. Like, you don't, it's not this secret thing that we've hooked you up with this person. You've known what we've done, how our family has done, how this family has gave and paid and joined together with our family. And you counted it lightly that your family had done this, and you found a little boy or a young man, and because of your fleshly lust, you dishonored your family and you slept with this young man. You destroyed this family and all they've put into everything, and you've completely dishonored ours. You'll be put to death, because you clearly don't care about anything or anybody but yourself. See, selfishness is not something that is welcome in our community, because a lot goes into raising and setting apart and what Yah has done. And you see how that kind of goes together. So there you have it. This is a mutual situation. They agreed. She did not cry out. That means that she did it. She snuck and did it. You were in the city, which meant that, remember, our cities and our communities are super close. So you did it in a way trying to get around, and you're running around behind people's backs and you're being trifling, and you're tearing down everything that's going on that we're trying to build for you, this life we're trying to build. That's worthy of death in our community. And so it says, you have humbled your neighbor's wife. So we saw that with David. We saw that happen with David, when he gives a dowry and then his wife is given to somebody else. We've covered that. And it says, why? So thou shalt put away evil from you. Okay. Next one, 25. But if a man find a betrothed damsel, same situation, woman who has been betrothed, this family's doing this, and they're raised up, and this covenant is there, and all this is happening. And it says, and force her and lie with her, then the man only that lie with her shall die. But unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. For as when a man rises up against his neighbor and slay him, even so is this matter. The Torah talks about when a person slays a person, you get upset or you do something. How can it's not the other person's fault that they died. A person was angry, or they had wickedness in their heart and they did something to them. And so in this particular matter, when a person raises up and slays a person, then the avenger of blood is going to then turn around and kill this person. So there is consequence. There's a consequence. Now, this person should be put to death, and that it's going to happen that same exact way. In this case, though, in the one before, it just means to lie with her, shakab. It means literally they agreed. You were, like I said, they decided to, both of them. In this case, though, the word here for force her is hazak. It means that he, being stronger than her, him being the pursuer, is binding her and has taken her and has forced her into this act. This is rape. The one before is not. This one is. Okay. We have one more. Okay. So, verse 28. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed. So this is a young woman. Her family has raised her up in covenant, right? She is a virgin. She has not been with a man, and lay hold on her. Okay. And lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. Okay. So let's walk through this one. If a man find a damsel, so this is a na'ara, right? A young woman, a girl, not an isha, but a damsel, right? That is a virgin. The funny thing that part that is not in the text, because in our culture, all damsels were virgins, unless they weren't, and then they were either dead or married. Okay. So if it says, if a man find a damsel, a virgin, right, which is not betrothed, that means that her family has not committed to her relationship with somebody else. She's just a young girl. And it says, and lay hold of her. Lay hold of her. Okay. So let's look at this lay hold. It's not the same word as hazak. This is not the idea of force. This is the word tafas. And it literally means to wield. Now, what does this word wield mean? It's the idea of a skilled swordsman. You see, because young boys, even young boys, they begin to understand their ability to, for lack of better words, spit game. Or they are young and they just fall in love with each other. It happens with kids, right? Young kids, we call it puppy love, and they believe that they're in love and this is it, she's it for me. And hormones are going because they're at that puberty stage, and they decide, these two decide that they are going to commit to one another. You know what our culture does? If you commit to one another sexually, that's your wife forever. And you don't get to just take a man's daughter, because see, you didn't do it by proper protocol. So then the family turned around and say, now we have to go back. You're going to pay this man a dowry. You're going to go through all the proper processes, and you're going to take this woman to be your wife. We had some similitude to this, or some similarity to this culturally, when a man got a woman pregnant. You're going to make an honest woman out of her. Well, our culture, but beyond that, if you lay with her, she's yours. You have humbled her. You have, the word means you have then taken authority of her, and you're taking on the authority to care for her for the rest of your life. So what they would do is that family would say, okay, if he was young, he probably didn't even have 50 shekels of silver. So the family would still have to participate in the process. Now we're going to have to take this money. And 50 shekels of silver wasn't like 50 cents. Okay. Don't get that wrong. So you would take this money, and he would either have to earn it. He'd either have to work for it, whatever the case may be. You're going to earn this, and you're going to go give this man something for his daughter. And then you're going to make a contract and a covenant that you are literally going to take care of this woman for the rest of your life. So young men, you know, you'd have something going and the hormones are working, but you're like, I don't know if I want to be married yet. If you don't want to be married yet, you don't try the product, because when you try it, that becomes yours. That is your wife now. You can't just use it and then move on to the next one. It literally stops whoredom for males and females, young people whose hormones are raging in Israel. Okay. And this idea of lay hold is that he did it skillfully. He did this idea where you then took her from her family. You took her from her family. And so you're taking responsibility of her. This is not the idea of lay hold of her and lie with her and then you be found. No, this is the thing that happens. They may have been creeping around for a while, right? And it's found out, oh, you two are married now. And then the proper formality happens. Okay. This is not rape. This is not the idea that a young man takes another woman and then now you get paid 50 shekels and you have to marry your rapist. Yah is not wicked and cruel like our brains tend to automatically revert to. European culture put that in. This applies to our culture. I don't know how dating and betrothal and all that works for the Europeans, but for us, this is how it works. For us, this is how rape works. For us, this is how molestation works. For us, there are laws and things set in place. So Yah is not telling a person they have to marry their rapist. I have one more that's also very interesting, but let me conclude with this one. So the consequence for laying hold of a woman or a young girl and taking her in her virginity is that the man is responsible for his seduction and his interaction with women. Men cannot be womanizers in the house of Israel, and men of Israel have a responsibility to the women they emotionally get involved with. Men are not supposed to act on the basis of feelings or lust, but must take responsibility for a woman's whole being. He must not take her body only, but also her mind and her soul into account, and carefully consider her honor and to honor her before the nation. We don't do that. So be very careful. Be very careful. Teach your sons to be very careful. Teach your women to be very careful. Teach them proper interactions between males and females. We're going to get into that a little bit later. There is a place for it. Okay. All right. So let's look at the last one. A man, and this is in Exodus 22, and we're going to Exodus 22, 16 and 17. So what happens then if a young couple decide, we're going to be together and this is how this is going to go. And I'm going to force this man to let me marry his daughter, even though he told me no, I'm going to sleep with her and then I'm just going to pay him 50 shekels. Our culture even deals with that. It's absolutely amazing how Yah has taken all of our little side ways of trying to get what we want into effect. So here, if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, okay, so this is the word here, patah. So it means, she's kind of silly. And like a lot of women are, a lot of grown women are still, but a lot of young girls are. And he's, girl, I'm gonna take care of you. This is, we just gonna do this. And he gives her and he spits game. So this is not a guy who's wielding a sword. He's not just trying to get her and cut her off from her family to have her to himself, but being young and not understanding, puppy love. No, this is smooth. Like, oh, I know she feel me. I got on these fringes. I got this little, my beard is nice. And he is speaking to her foolishness. Okay. She does not understand how she's supposed to keep herself and how much she is valued. And men prey on women like this. They still do. Torah even speaks to that. A man may even prey on a woman like this and try to get her to be with him so that he can go off and get other women and then make a harem of women because they're simple and silly in their mind and don't understand their value in the covenant that Yah has also given them and the prize that they are. Torah deals with this. And if a man entice a maid, patah, that is not betrothed, so it's another unbetrothed maid, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. So going directly back to what we just looked at. But if her father utterly refuse to give her unto him, he shall pay him money according to the dowry of virgins. Okay. So you have two things at work here. A man can be a particular man, and the father say, you're not good for my daughter. And the daughter's like, no, but I have to have him. Oh, he loves me. Father can say, absolutely not. Now I'm going to take the price of the dowry of the virgin, and you will be here. You will live in this house. Because see, you don't understand how to govern yourself. You don't know how to protect yourself. You don't know what you're worth. So you need to be here and I need to keep watch over you probably for the rest of your life because this man is going to take advantage of you. This man is going to use you in a way, and eventually he'll probably get rid of you and you'll be back here anyways. See, our parents in our culture were very wise and they saw through a bunch of stuff, and our parents still do now, and we don't heed to them. We don't heed to them when it comes to who should be pursuing us, and they say, he not good for you or she not good for you. He's like, but I love her. See, our culture didn't do that. Fathers didn't let their daughters be taken advantage of by slick men and people who had power and influence. It was an absolute no. And you'll just have to be upset and you'll just have to be mad about it. You're going to be here because you don't understand what you're putting yourself into. There's more for you. So rape was not a part of our culture. Okay. When it's mentioned, it's handled and there are consequences for it. There's no marrying your rapist because it would be better for a woman to marry her rapist. I've read some crazy stuff. Better for a woman to marry her rapist than for her to be without covering in Israel. No, Israel is not some wicked culture. If a woman is taken advantage of, and let's just say she didn't have anybody else, somebody's going to take her in, right? Somebody's going to stand in the gap. You don't just say, oh, well, go be with him so he can keep raping you. Like, that is so convoluted. It's not what the text is saying at all, at all, at all. And we're going to get into Tamar and Amnon now and what she offers in this particular instance. And her understanding of law and culture. And you can see just how young and naive she really was and how the protection of her was very much necessary. Okay, so rape was not a part of our culture. Acts like the one we are going to experience in our story is a byproduct of sin and rebellion. What many Blacks experience in chattel slavery was because of a perverse culture, void of Torah, bringing their practices to us in a heinous way. And now what we experience in many Black homes and communities as it pertains to sexual perverseness and whoredom is a byproduct of our waywardness and is another negative reminder of who we are and how badly we need Yah's laws, statutes, and commandments in order to get back to our culture and, more importantly, our Creator. And if you want to know more about how these things were prophesied because of our disobedience, go ahead and read Deuteronomy 28, the blessings and the curses. All right, now let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 13. Whew. And it came to pass after this. Now, when we're reading and we're studying, we have to make sure that we're reading with understanding. Because most of us will go, well, okay, it came to pass after this, and we keep going. No. After what? A good reader is an active reader. So after this, the biblical narrative opens up with after this. In English, this is called an unclear antecedent. See, this requires the reader to have previous knowledge of the events that occurred before the this is mentioned. See, Hebrew, we can write with the after this because the story is following a chronological order. So you can say this because we know the that occurred before this. All right. For those of you who have been following the series, you know the this to be something that occurred after the issue concerning David and Bathsheba. So this is after the adultery, after the killing of Uriah, after the death of David and Bathsheba's son, as prophesied by the prophet Nathan, after the birth of Jedediah or Solomon, and after we thought it was all over, or better yet, after we thought that the sword, which Yah said was coming against the house of David, was stayed. After this. That Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister. Now, who is Absalom? Who is Absalom? Absalom is a daughter of Maachah, who is the daughter of the king of Geshur, okay? Talmai, the king of Geshur, is Absalom's grandfather. And Absalom has a sister. So this is his full-blooded sister by his mother and his father. Okay, that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister. That means she was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, you see, it doesn't say just he's a son of David, but his mother is the Jezreelitess. Okay, so Amnon, the son of David, loved her. Okay, so the Hebrew word here is the Hebrew word ahev, okay, from the root ahav, and it meant that he loved her, okay, for lack of better terms. But what we'll find from this text is that the love that he had for her was more love for himself and not a love for her. It means literally to make one yours. Okay, so in Hebrew, how love is defined is we have to see and make somebody into see a mirrored image of ourselves in another person. Okay, but the perversion of it is that if we don't do that, then we'll see them as an accessory to ourselves, something to feed ourselves, and not something that we are willing to create an equal exchange between that person and ourselves. So the Aleph gives to the Bet. The man gives to the woman. Yah gives to the house. And then in return, the house returns something back. And it's a fluid relationship. And what stands behold them, that hey is the behold. I'm seeing you and I'm watching over you. This is what's happening here. He sees something where he can draw out, but we'll see if Amnon sees something that he can put back in. And Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. Okay, so we understand here that his love was one way. He wanted to do something to her. And she is a virgin, and he found it hard to do anything. So this is where we're going to get some of these cultural nuggets about male and female interaction. And we're going to kind of set a precedent for David, because a lot of people look at this text and they go, well, what is David going to do? And what did David do? And what? Well, the house had been set up according to Torah. See, he found it hard to do anything to her because there was already a separation between them. It's interesting that a separation is necessary in a house or around certain people. And this is because of, in this particular case, there is a mixed household. A lot of people have their opinions and their thoughts about plural marriage. But one of the things that is very evident from plural marriage that we can see in this particular text and with David and what was permissible is that it caused division in the household, It caused people to see each other divided. And while many people think that it's okay for plural marriages, we get a quantity seed, but this quantity seed of all these children and their interactions, it lacks quality. It lacks quality and it lacks oversight for the proper implementation of Torah. And Yah talks about a king multiplying to himself wives and doing certain things. Why we kind of spoke about it before, it weighs on their heads, whether it's too many people to watch over, whether it's too many children to raise, or whether it's the inability to understand and know your child in order to prevent things like we're gonna see in this text. See, there was a garrison around Tamar, protection communally set up because of one, her being a female, one, her being a king's daughter, and the other because she was set apart. She was set apart. She was being watched from afar, and she was not easily accessible. Literally what the text tells us. She had to be cunningly sent for. Cunningly sent for. She was plotted on and deceived, and her innocence is evident. You're going to see it. Some would say she should have been aware, but she didn't have to have street smarts and princess smarts. See, we live in a world of duality. She was able to rest in being a young girl and being someone's child and being protected over. She didn't have to think about being preyed upon because the culture and the community and the household was supposed to have eyes on her. Okay. She was operating in her call, in her purpose, in her covenant to Yah. And it was done without limits, and she was guarded and protected. The adversary had to work from within because she was protected all around. All right. We know what Torah says about sibling marriage. So we already know that his feelings are wrong, flat out. We also know that in our culture, whether or not people wanted to know, you were raised up with Torah. If you were a king's child, you went to school, you had teachers, and your textbook was the law. That was the law. And especially in Amnon's case, because Amnon is David's firstborn son, which means that he's older than all of his other children. Okay. He's older than all the other children, which means that he's much older than Tamar. And he is next in line to be king. So he would have already been in training, learning Torah. So he's not ignorant of Yah's law. Okay. And that's why he's vexed behind it and he's sick behind it, because he's trying to figure out a way to circumvent the system that is in place. Another thing here, parents, we all know our children. We should know your child. Know your child. Amnon here has something wrong with him, period. Like there's not an easy way to look at it. So we know something is wrong with somebody who loved their sister, right? He loved her and then loved her and then turned around and got vexed and then felt sick over it. See, his love became twisted. He could have just loved her and saw his little sister and like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. She's so smart. Da, da, da. And then something changed and it went perverted. And we're going to learn also that this wasn't a secret either. So he becomes vexed and he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it hard to do anything to her. Okay. If you have a child, and I have this in my notes, and I'm going to mention it, and you see something and don't do something about it, then you are helping and consenting to their behavior, whether it's a personality flaw, whether it's an internal misalignment, as we're seeing here, whatever it is, when we turn a blind eye to it and we don't deal with it, we are consenting and taking part in their behavior. Because my question was, and I wrote it down here, where was your mama? Right? Your daddy too, for sure. But where was your mom? Where was your mother? What was happening while you were being raised? We don't really hear much about it, but we understand that there was an extreme failure as a parent and as parents in Amnon. For sure. It was overlooked. So he made himself sick. He couldn't do what he wanted to do and became obsessed with lying with her to the point that it literally consumed him. And that's all he could think about. All right. So, but Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimei, David's brother. So he's not just a friend, he's his cousin. He's not just any cousin, but he's his first cousin. Okay. And Jonadab was a very subtle man. So these are two men plotting on a young girl. See, in the so-called Black household, we have what I like to call Black trauma in cousins. Most premature sexual experiences take place when prepubescent boys are allowed into spaces with girls. Hormones and bad advice all get mingled together. See, we have these cultural practices that are blends of our disenfranchisement. This everybody stays in one room. Everybody's, yes, your family, so we trust them. It's not that we shouldn't trust people. It's just the issue of nature. And nature has to be nurtured, and respect and boundaries have to be taught between boys and girls, between men and women. And people hate that because we live in a society where everybody's equal, and boys and men are equal, and men and girls are equal. Well, we're not equal. Men are stronger than women. We all have more emotions and hormones, and we don't know how to handle them. Boys go through puberty, and they become enraged, and they begin to look different, and their voice gets deeper as a gift from Yah, because then that becomes attractive, and they become attractive, and then little girls become more attractive, and then they start to go through puberty. And these are natural things boys should look at and girls should look at as they grow up in age. But if it happens in the house where mixed companies and you got cousins and brothers and sisters and sleepovers, things happen that are not supposed to happen. And so what we see right off the bat from our community is that young men and girls are separate. They're not left alone. They're not left in spaces. They're not left home by themselves. They're not left to govern themselves. If we can't watch them, they need to stay in their respective places or with people that can look over them, because lifelong trauma happens in the blink of an eye. And it happens with bad advice and hormones. And then secrets are created, and then issues are created, and then we wonder why our children rebel, or why they stop talking to us, or why they become insecure with their bodies, or why they want to be lesbians or homosexuals, or why they have all these issues coming, because they're seeing things and experiencing things in environments unbridled, uncontrolled. And then they begin to determine that the world is this way and that they are this way, and there's no one to talk to. And you have children who experience depression, and you have children who experience anxiety, and they withdraw and they become suicidal because they've been allowed to watch things. See, it's not just, let me take my screen share off. It's not just when children do things to other children. It's what other children expose other children to as well. It's when you have older children who have access to TikTok and Instagram after dark and Pornhub, and they show the younger children and then incite something in them. And now you have a child whose sexuality has been awakened too soon. It's the music that you allow your children to listen to and throw in AirPods and headphones, and you have no idea what they're listening to. And then when you hear them listening to it, you don't stop them, and you don't take the device, and you don't make correction. So then the prophet, the musician, who is a prophet, and this particular prophet is a prophet for hire for Baal, is allowed to speak into your child's ears and speak to their heart without repercussion, without balance. And then your child begins to act out those behaviors and how they dress and how they think and how they act and how they do and what they say in private spaces. It happens. It's the little things. And so in our culture, we had garrisons, we girded the perimeter of the minds of our children by what they watched and what they saw and who was around them and how we corrected it. We did it in love and care, and we didn't take away their innocence by telling them how terrible the world is, but we kept certain things away from them and from around them, and we took things even when we knew they'd be upset, because we knew that if we kept letting those things around them, that eventually something would happen. It's not just the old dirty uncle that does things. It's the music, it's the television, it's the cousins, it's the friends, it's the AirPods, it's the iPods, it's the iPhones, it's the iPads, and what they have unlimited access to that is shaping their minds. And then they begin to act out the words of the familiar spirit that then speak to them and tell them, I'm hot and horny, now do this. I am having a desire. I feel something happening when I see this, now do this. And they don't take into account Yah's law because it's not in them, because you've allowed those prophets to speak more into your child's heart than the prophets of the word. And so when they feel these feelings, they have nothing to rein them in. And so they do them. And they don't care if they do them to their cousins. They don't care if they do it to their little sisters. They don't care if they do it to their little brothers or their nieces or their nephews or whoever's around, because my desire and what I want is more important than the lives and the souls of other people around me. And you can see how this is another form of sacrificing your children to the gods of this world, because now they act and they do things in private that you can't even execute consequence for. And then they are cut off from the life to come, and they're going to live a wicked life. It's important that you know your child and you know who's around them. You're responsible. We talked about in the beginning how the blood and the consequence has to fall on somebody. Well, your children and the consequences for them being cut off fall upon you. And then you live your life as an adult trying to figure out how to reverse what you didn't want to touch when they were younger. And now it's too far gone. They're cut off and they live cut off. We got to do better with the children that are placed in our care. Children are not just innocent. And I mean that to say, we are fighting a duality. We are born into sin. So they're not just naturally averted to things. Children have to have laws, statutes, and commandments, and those of the Most High enforced by their parents in order to raise up in them a proper governor. A proper governor. That's why they have parents. You are their governor. You are the person governing over them, and you're setting boundaries and limits without compromise, because you understand the long-term effects. You understand the long-term effects. You understand the long-term effects of not having boundaries. It's hard to reel something in when it takes off running. It's hard. All right. Let's get back to it. So you have Amnon, you have Jonadab, slick cousin, slick son, right? And Jonadab, verse 4, he said unto him, Amnon, why you all looking lean in the face and all sad? You know, you the king's son. He says, why art thou being lean and you the king's son? So he puts this in his ear. The king's son, in Jonadab's mind, has some kind of privilege over other people. That's not Torah. We're all equal. We're all equal under the law. Nobody has the ability to circumvent the law. Okay. So Shimei, right? He's at home, probably talking to his family, talking to his wife, like, yeah, you already heard what happened with David and Bathsheba. And then they lost the baby and da-da-da-da. And, you know, kids listen, they hear the things that go on around them, and then they create feelings about them, and they see the things that go on around them, and they create feelings about them. So when we do things and when we transgress law, Yah's law in their face, even though they know we're supposed to be walking in Torah, then they create loopholes in how they can, one, disobey you because of how you disobey Yah, right? And so this kid is sitting around here, and he has this idea that the king can get away with things that other people can't get away with. And so the king's son can also get away with things that other people can't get away with. See, he thinks that there is privilege to disobey. When we disobey Yah, we give occasion to the children to disobey Yah. They're watching, they see things, they are putting things together. They're not stupid. Right? And so then we create a system where now they learn to try and circumvent Yah's law. then it makes it difficult for us to execute Yah's law because we know we're living wrong. See, to execute Yah's law, the scripture tells us that we must be blameless. It doesn't mean perfect, but it means that we have to either have lived and corrected or have not walked in and not be walking in that particular way so that we can uphold Yah's law and righteousness for our children and for those around us. In this case, there have been things that these children have seen that don't quite add up. And so they're creating their own righteousness. And he's subtle, which means he's slick, he's sneaky. He knows he already been working around systems. He'd probably been doing some stuff that we don't even have no idea of. And then he comes to David's son and puts this in his ear. And we don't think that the devil can use kids to speak to our kids. We don't think that the adversary can use cousins to tell our kids to do things that we're not raising our kids to do. But in the text, here comes a cousin from a household into another household, telling this kid who's already got something going on, hey, it's okay to feel like that. See, kids will give other kids advice like they're smart enough to do so. And then kids are so naive that they'll take the advice of their peers and then hide the advice and act in it, and then turn around and be upset with you for not knowing that they got the advice and doing the things that they did. That's why you keep your children close. Keep your children close. You join in the conversations that your children have. If you hear it get too quiet, you go, hey, what y'all doing in there? Come out here. Let's sit down and play a game. You don't let them get into environments where they begin to start giving each other advice because they don't know the world and Torah well enough to give each other advice. Friends shouldn't let kids, your kids' friends shouldn't be giving them advice. And your kids should see you as a buffer and a place to come to, where when something is said, they say, Mom, somebody told me X, Y, and Z. Well, what should I do? And you say, well, and then you take them back to Torah. But if we don't create those bonds and those relationships, then our children won't come to us. They will not come to us. They'll go to others. Okay. And Amnon, so it says, why art thou, being the king's son, lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? Tell me what you got going on. And Amnon said unto him, so, this is his cousin. They close. He trusts him. This is a secret. You know how kids tell secrets? Well, these are young men. They're telling secrets. He said, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. See how he tried to put distance between the fact that it's his sister too? I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. So he had already figured out, like, man, she ain't really my sister. Like, we got different mamas. Like, that's my daddy's daughter, but that ain't my sister. He didn't already went all the way crooked in his mind. He found a way to continue thinking against Torah. And Jonadab said unto him, all right, man, I got something for you. Lay down on the bed and act like you're sick. And when your father comes to see you, say unto him, Dad, man, can you have Tamar come and give me some meat and like cook it right here by me? Because I'm not feeling good. And maybe she can look and see if I'm something wrong with me. She can give me like a special soup or something. And then I can see her do it, and maybe I can learn how to do it for myself. But this time I really don't know how. And then I can eat it and she can feed me, because I'm just like so weak, man. Tell your daddy that. I mean, your dad don't want to see you get sick, man. You about to be the king. Like, you can't die. And he already lost a kid, so he's gonna be like real sensitive. He's not gonna like, dang, I had another son that's sick. Tamar, what we learn in this text right here, this idea of meat is lechem. It's lechem. Just gonna give him bread. It's or food, some kind of food or nourishment to his body that's going to make him well. So most people believe that she had the gift of healing, that she was able to take herbs and take certain things and administer them in a way to make a person's body feel better. Natural medicine, true medicine. And so Amnon did it. He laid down and he pretended like made himself sick. So he's like, let the slob run down, a little crust in my eye, and lay here, and he made himself sick. And so your son's sick, So the king is like, man, he just lost a child. He's already, his trauma is triggered. So he's like, he comes to see him. So the king came to see Amnon, and Amnon said to the king, Dad, can you please tell my sister Tamar? So he wasn't calling her his sister in the passage before. He's calling her Absalom's sister. Can you have my sister Tamar come and make me a couple of cakes at my site so I can eat them? Have her make them by hand right here so I can see how to do it. I'm not feeling good. So David was like, hey, Tamar, go to your brother's Amnon's house and get him well. So she's like, okay, Dad. Right? Like you see how she wasn't in her mind thinking, go to your brother's house also meant that she was somewhere that he was not. So this wasn't this idea of like this big giant mansion and they all had these, no. Like you had a village and quarters and young women who were virgins and their mothers and their families had a spot. And these women lived in their houses and there were separate housing and separate things going on. We see the consequence of this later on with Solomon because he built houses of worship to each of his wives, which meant that his wives lived in separate houses. So even here, cultural nugget, even here where David has multiple wives, he is not in the house with every single one of them. That they all have their own separate spaces. His son has a separate space. He has, and it's multiple chambers we're going to see. He has a general space and a set apart space and a bedroom space. Okay. So you have these places where things can happen where you can't have your eyes on him because his son's sick. He has to come see his son that's sick. Then he has to send for Tamar. This is not just a situation of everybody living in a big tent. Okay. This is places where people can have private conversations and private things can happen. So David sent home to Tamar and he said, go to thy brother's house and dress his meat. Tamar is a daughter, a young woman. Her father is her father and he's a king. And she immediately obeys. She isn't like, I don't really know what's going on. She was separate from this. Now, Amnon had a conversation with Jonadab. So, things kind of buzz. People don't keep secrets. So we're going to see that the word amongst the guys was one thing, but the word over here for her was just like, my dad asked me to do something. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house and he was laid down. And she took flour and kneaded it and made cakes in his sight and baked the cakes. So she's serving him. And she took a pan and poured them out before him. And he refused to eat. I'm not going to eat it. And then Amnon said, have all men out all men from me. See, this is where one of the first issues comes up. Tamar trusted him, and she trusted him to a fault, because when all men left out of the room, that was Tamar's cue to leave out of the room, because culturally, right, women and men are not left in spaces by themselves for reasons of the one that we're going to see. But her father sent her. Her brother is sick, and it's a triggered and traumatized family. They've had loss, things have happened. And so she stays. And they went out, every man from him. So then even the men didn't honor the culture of saying, hey, but what's going on here? Because they're family. So it's their brother. He wants everybody out. Maybe, I don't know, everybody leave out. He has power over culture and over Torah with these people. And it's also a consequence of his father being able to do things and have power over the law and to get people to do things due to loyalty. See, our loyalty should never cause us to forget the boundaries that Yah has set in place. So then Amnon said unto Tamar, bring the meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. So Tamar takes the meat into the chamber, and she brings him to her brother. You see, the text continually says her brother, her brother, her brother. And it gives you two different lenses. It gives you how she saw him. And in the beginning, it gives how he saw her. It gives how David saw her and him, your brother. Tamar goes to her brother. Amnon says Absalom's sister. His love was not the way it should have been. See, he didn't see her as his. He saw her as something that he can act upon, but not something that he had to guard and protect. She saw and served him as her brother. It's interesting, too, how little girls are with their older brothers. She was willing to go wherever he asked her to go. She wasn't thinking that my brother's not going to protect me, that my brother's going to let something happen to me, or that my brother's going to do something to me. And verse 11, when she brought them unto him to eat, so she got close enough to him. She had kept her distance up until this point. She did her job. When she got close enough to him, it says he took hold of her. He took hold of her and said unto her, come, lie with me, my sister. He knew what he was doing, and his sin was presumptuous. And she said, no, my brother, do not force me. She said, do not bow me down. Do not take from me. Do not humble me. Okay. So she is saying pretty much, don't sleep with me. Don't humble me. Don't lay with me. Okay. For no such thing ought to be done in Israel. She tries to give him the law. He's beyond law at this point. She said, do not thou this folly. This is evil. This is stupid. This is wickedness. Don't do it. Do not do this. She calls it's emptiness. It's nabala. It's like, don't do this. And she says in the absolute, it wasn't like, do not do this now. Do not do this ever. Okay. So we know that they had been taught Torah in their home. And she says, and I, whether shall I cause my shame to go? Like, if you do this to me, like what, how am I ever going to be from under this? Like, why would you do this to me? Why would you even suggest this happen? So we talked about this before. A man says to a woman or to his sister, let's lay together. And if she will, well, she will not. She's like, no, like don't do this. This is shameful. Like, we know what are you doing? And he says, and she goes, but for me, but then for you, as for you, thou shalt be one of the fools in Israel. You will be nothing in Israel. Like, dude, you're supposed to be king. You're willing to give away everything and break God's law. Like, what is wrong with you? She sharply rebuked him, right? Now, therefore, she says, listen to this. I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. Howbeit, would not withhold me from thee. Okay. So I've heard it two things with this, and as I was reading through it. So she says, go to the king and ask him for me, and he won't say no. I've heard two things. One, this was her like trying to throw something out there. Like, if you want me, do it the proper way. Like, but also knowing that David, who was going to use Torah and judge correctly, even in times where maybe he hasn't and for himself, but he was repentant. David knows God's law, and he's a just judge. Torah tells us that he was that, and he's written down as one. If Amnon would have went to his dad and asked for his sister, his dad would have been like, have you lost your mind? Like, have you lost your mind? The other thing that I heard was that she pretty much didn't really understand things. And so she understood that it would be better to have something done properly than improperly. I lean more toward the first one. I don't think that she was asking her brother to go ask her dad to marry her. She was trying to get her dad to judge on this matter and get her out of the situation, because remember, he has grabbed her. He has her in his grasp, and she's trying to find a way to get away. Okay. Verse 14 says, howbeit he would not hearken unto her voice. So she has cried out. She has said something. She has spoken. But here we go. It's not just some two people who want to get together, but being stronger than she, forced. The word, he bowed her, he humbled her, he forced her. He forced her and lay with her. This one is, I'm sorry, it didn't pull up the right word, because here in the text, it says hazak. So when I click forced, I got a nah. But in the text here, it says, if we go right here, and we have hazak. So he being stronger than her. Here we go. There we go. Him being stronger than her, hazak, he took strength over her, and he lay with her. He humbled her. He took her virginity. He raped her. Then Amnon hated her exceedingly. Goes through all this. He loves her. She tries to tell him no. He does it anyways. Against her will, he rapes her, forces her to lay with him. And then that love he had, that wasn't love, he hated her exceedingly. So that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. He gets what he wants, and now he hates her. He hates her stronger than he had loved her. She pleads and tells him not to, and he does anyway. He has a wickedness in his heart beyond anything we've probably seen in Israel, and that's why the story is put here. See, he is an unbridled, undisciplined, wicked son. And Amnon said unto her, arise and be gone. Tells her, arise, like, get out of here. Get up and get out of here. Sadly, even though the situation is one of incestuous rape, a lot of men have done this to the daughters of Zion, making whores out of them. You bring them, you overtake them, whether it is not by rape, but by seduction and by convincing them, craftily enticing them. You lay with them and you think you had to have it. And then you hate her more than anything, and you reject her and you separate yourself from her, and then tell her, he told her specifically in this text, he says, girl, bye, like, go, like, leave, get out of my face, be gone. And she said unto him, there is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that thou didst to me. She said, not only have you now taken me and raped me, but now you're going to send me out like some common whore. He still wouldn't listen to her, because he had no intent of ever listening to her. His intent was to rape her. He knew she didn't want to be with him. He knew she didn't want to be with him because he had to trick her into coming there in the first place. His intent was never to listen to her, to never hear her voice, to never hear her concerned, to never see if she was feeling the same way about him. He didn't care. He's like, this is how I feel, and I'm going to act on how I feel right now. Verse 17, then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, put now this woman out from me. Now it's interesting that the servant, when he called for the servant that ministered unto him, the servant came. But when she was calling out and rebuking him and saying she didn't want to be raped, all of a sudden nobody could hear. See, everybody's in on it. Everybody around, when he's like, get out, go out, everybody goes. When they hear, they're like, we're just going to let it happen. He says, put her out. Put now this woman out from me. You made her a woman. She came a girl. And you made her a woman, and you spoke to it. And you said, now put, the text says woman, it's a translation. because of her being humbled. But literally, what he said was in Hebrew, put this out from me. He doesn't even address her as a woman. He doesn't even address what he said. He said, put this, get this out of here. It's literally what the text says. And bolt the door after her. And she had a garment of diverse colors upon her. This is Tamar. She has this garment on her. For with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. Then she takes that garment and put it on her head. She tears it. She tears the garment. And she put it on her head and went out crying. So she cried out. So she didn't, this is not something she wanted. It's not something that she wanted to happen to her. She wasn't also feeling her brother, want to be with him. No, she takes the garment and rents it. My her is a symbol of like my virginity. This garment, everything has been ripped from me. She lays it on her head because she has been humbled and left without a covering. So she covers her head and went out crying. And Absalom, her brother, said unto her. So she goes to her brother. She goes back home to her space. And her brother sees her and she has this garment on her head. Culturally, these are all symbols that something has gone on. So Absalom, her brother, says something. Wait, some water on myself. Hath Amnon thy brother been with thee? So everybody kind of knows Amnon is what I like to call ticky. Something's wrong with this Nebrew, okay? And when Absalom sees that his sister has rent her garment, has put it on her head and is crying, the first thing that comes to his mind is Amnon, which means that everybody else, the word has buzzed. See, Amnon is weird. Amnon does some weird stuff. Amnon, he liked Tamar. And David didn't know. He says, has Amnon thy brother been with thee? And then he says, but now hold your peace. My sister, he is thy brother. Regard not this thing. Secrets and cover up. Hold your peace. Don't say anything. Regard not this thing. He is my brother. Well, he wasn't acting like a brother. Hold your peace. She don't have no more peace. See, her peace was taken when he raped her. What peace does she have to hold on to at this point? See, family secrets are not really secrets. Everybody knows. We all just sit around and act like we don't know. We all sit around in silence, bearing the iniquity and the guilt, placing ourselves in a place to be condemned for the secrets we hold. See, the issue is nobody wants to ruin relationship. Nobody wants to see the consequence happen, or nobody wants to be hurt by the lack of consequences that will take place. See, Amnon didn't think anything was going to be done about it. Why even say anything? Or maybe he thought, wait, let's just see what's going to happen. It'll come to be. You don't say anything, I'll take care of it. Maybe that was his approach. So he allowed, and we allow, hidden trauma and elephants in the room to run rampant. See, this idea of an elephant in the corner, I don't see them as elephants in the corner. They're elephants that are trampling the room down, and we all sit around like we don't see it. We lean back and dodge when something's said, or when we cringe when somebody comes in the room and we know this person, and the room is destroyed. The elephant's not sitting quietly. It's loud. And it's so loud, and it's loud in the energy and in the vibe in the room. And then we just let it exist. We let it sit there and we let it fester. We let it just go on. So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Amnon's house. The Hebrew word here for desolate means she was one outcast, but emotionally it says that she was completely out of it. She was dismayed. She couldn't believe what had happened. She was now a shell of herself. She was done. Like she was just there. She was just there. She was empty inside. Her soul was empty. She couldn't get it back together. He ruined her. He ruined her to the point that she was pretty much dead inside. So much so that Absalom names his daughter Tamar as if to redeem the dead. Verse 21. But when King David heard of all these things, he was very wroth. The Hebrew word here for wrath is the word hara, and it means to burn or be kindled of anger. And the concrete Hebrew definition is the idea of like when you're so angry that your throat burns and tears well up into your eyes, and it's like you're crying fire. He was wroth. Now, we know David was wroth, but we know also that nothing was done. Now, there is the issue here of this idea of cut off. David has a sensitive spot in some areas for his children, for the nation of Israel. And I had two things come into my mind, and these are just my own conjecture, to be taken as that. David had just been saved from death. He did something worthy of death, and Yah allowed him to live and to be repentant of his sin. And so my first thought was that David did not act on his wrath because he had been forgiven much, and to act on his wrath toward his son would have, in his eyes, been possibly unjust. Second thing is the idea of to cut off. Yah has been long-suffering with our nation, and had been long-suffering with our nation up until this point. And these are things that David knew. And so he also understood that cut off didn't mean that he'd have to kill him now, but that he would indeed be cut off from the life to come if he did not repent of his action and carry and bear his iniquity in this life. It could be either or, it could be both, but we know that nothing initially is done, and he leaves the judgment in the hands of Yah. That probably had to be something very difficult for David to do. I don't think he did it because he was weak. I don't think he did it because he did not know how to execute judgment. I think that he did it as maybe a sign of mercy, meaning I have been forgiven. And so I'm going to not act in the feeling of my wrath, and I'm going to let Yah's judgment play out, because Yah is going to be just to execute how he sees fit. Verse 22 says, and Absalom spake unto his brother Absalom, neither good nor bad. Whew. Absalom, knowing what happened, stops himself from doing anything. He waits. He's like, I'm gonna see. Let's see what's going to happen. He waits in the same way. Maybe he's waiting for Yah. Maybe he's waiting for his father. And the interesting thing is, Amnon is still around. See, the accuser is still in the community. The accused, he is still around. He is still there. The one who has done the act is still moving through. And he says nothing good nor bad. Like he's waiting, like, let me just watch him. And it seems as though he just went right on about his life. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't come and apologize. But he's visible. He's not hiding. He is bold in his sin. For Absalom hated Amnon. He didn't say anything to him, good or bad, because he hated him. Because he had forced his sister Tamar. He knew it. She said it. It was done. David knew it. And Amnon is still moving around, living normal, still next in line to be the king, still has friends and servants and people ministering to him, and nothing has happened. For many people, this would be seen as a taunt. Like there's nothing happening to this person and they've done this heinous act. But as we said before, his soul is cut off. See, we don't get to see people's torment because people who are tormented have often been tormented for a very, very long time. And they've learned to live in their filth. And they learn how to put up a facade around their wickedness. And they are able to hide from everybody around them. They can't hide from themselves. And they're not hiding from Yah. But Absalom wasn't okay with it. Verse 23. And it came to pass after 2 full years. See, Absalom waited 2 years. Like, surely this will eat him up. Surely he will come forth. Surely he will not do this and leave my sister desolate. Surely he will do something. See, he took her and she lived in Absalom's house, and Absalom pretty much cared for his sister. And he waited for 2 years and said nothing. Now, he let the sun go down on his wrath and he brewed on it. Absalom let it fester. He let his feelings and his rage get to a point that he was a calm and calculated angry. He never got unmad. He had to look at his sister every day, become a shell of herself, watch the light leave out of her eyes, and watch her just go through the motions of life, just stole her whole future. So it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hazor, which is beside Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the king's sons. And Absalom came to the king and said, Behold now, thy servant hath sheep shearers. Let the king, I beseech thee, and his servants go with thy servant. David's like, And the king said to Absalom, No, son, let's not all now go, lest we be chargeable unto thee. He said, no, let's not all go. Let's not all be, in the Hebrew word here, chargeable, be nothing, be not. Like he's like, let's not all go and be nothing to thee. He was already peeping game. He was like, okay. And he pressed him, saying, howbeit he would not go. He's like, come with me. Come on. Like, he's like, no, we're not gonna, let's all the king's sons can't go in one spot. That doesn't sound wise. He knows Absalom is mad. And for some reason, he seems to know Absalom. Okay. And he pressed him. David said, I'm not going to go. But he did say, but you go ahead. You go. Then said Absalom, if not, I pray thee, let my brother Amnon go with us. So if you won't go as a king, let the next in line go. He's my brother, right? And the king said unto them, why should he go with thee? But Absalom pressed him that he let Amnon and all the king's son go with him. See, David, when you see certain things as a father, it wasn't a terrible father. He's like, this is my son, and I know me. And this boy is up to something. He couldn't quite put his finger on it. It's been 2 years. And so he's like, no, let Absalom go. Let Absalom go. And so he lets Absalom go. He let Amnon go. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, mark ye now, when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say unto you, smite Amnon, then kill him. Fear not, have I not commanded you? See, Absalom had a plan. He was like, nobody else is going to do something? I'll do something about it. See, Yah tells us that vengeance is mine, saith Yahuwah. Absalom wasn't willing to wait for Yah's vengeance to be executed for what happened to his sister. So he acts in the same way that his brother acted. He was like, didn't he go and ask my dad to send my sister? All right. I'm going to ask my dad to send him with me. I'm going to show him what it's like to be sent for and for somebody to lie and wait to literally take your soul. And just the same way that all Amnon's men were in on it, Absalom's men were in on it. He says, be courageous and be valiant. See, Absalom's old enough. He's seen his daddy kill people or have people killed. People come bearing good news. People come. He's seen judgment executed, and he says, you know what? I can do it. I can set the command. And then see, the blood's not on my hand. Let his blood fall upon his own head. And these men are only doing what they're being told to do. So I can execute judgment. Verse 29, and the servants of Absalom did unto Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's son arose, and every man gat him up on his saddle and fled. When they saw him kill Amnon, they all were like, oh, snap. They literally got up, ran, got on their mules, and they fled. Verse 30, and it came to pass while they were in the way, they were on their way back, that tidings came to David saying, Absalom has slayed all the king's sons. You imagine how David's heart may have sank into the pit of his stomach. He's like, I didn't let this boy take my sons, all of them, and now he's killed them all. David had to think, here it is again. I made another mistake. I send my daughter to my son rapes my daughter. Now I send my sons with my son, and my son kills on my son. And he's seeing this idea of this sword just going through his house. And there is not one of them left. The king arose and tore his garments and lay on the earth. He's just laying before Yah. He's like, this is judgment. And all of his servants who stood by rent their clothes. And Jonadab, here he goes again. He plays two sides of the fence. And Jonadab, the son of Shimei, David's brother, answered and said, oh, no, king, it's all good. Because he knows a little bit of everything. He's messy. He's in everybody's business. He knows everything that's going on. Let not my master suppose that they have slain all the young men, the king's sons. For Amnon is only dead. So guess what? He also knew Absalom's plan. He's just this subtle, crafty creature allowed to move back and forth, and because he's family, nobody does anything about it. He knew about Tamar being raped. He actually told him how to do it. And he also knows that Absalom is going to kill Amnon. So he brings comfort to the king and says, oh, no, only Amnon is dead. Because he's like, yeah, see, because Absalom, he's mad about the brother and sister, that whole thing. And he says, for by the appointment of Absalom, this has been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. He knew the day it happened. And he tells David why it happened. Now, therefore, let not my master the king take the thing to his heart, to think that all the king's sons are dead, for Amnon only is dead. But Absalom fled. See, he's like, Absalom had reached a point. Now he had killed, and he's like, I've killed a man and I've acted, and his emotions are all over the place. And he's like, now I've killed my brother, and my father didn't do anything. And I'm sure everything in his brain just went haywire at that moment. See, trying to act as Yah is too lofty for us. It's too lofty for us. Taking a life, see, is too much for us. And Yah understands that. And that's why he has levels and ways that he executes his judgment. He doesn't ask us to kill our oppressors or to afflict pain upon them. He does it because he can do so with a just and upright heart. It was hard for Absalom. He acted in his emotions, and we can't say that he was wrong. I mean, he was acting to the honor of his sister, but he took his life and he didn't wait on the vengeance of Yah, which then makes him wrong because he didn't trust that Yah in his word and in his might would do what he said he would do to people who do things such as what Amnon has done. So he fled. And the young man that kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked out, and behold, there came much people by the way of the hillside behind him. And it came to pass, as soon as he had made an end of speaking, that behold, the king's sons came and lifted up their voice and wept. And the king also and all his servants wept very sore. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. He went to his grandfather. It's interesting because everybody's doing their own thing. Everybody has their own thing going on. And just another insert of conjecture. Amnon's mother and Absalom's mother and all these people are still around. Well, Absalom's mom seems to have told him, well, if you're going to do it, make sure you go to your grandpa. He'll take you in. He knew where to go. He knew where to go to. And the word had passed. We don't know if Talmai also knew what happened, but I'm sure he did once Absalom came and he told him what happened. And he invites him in almost as one who invites one into a city of refuge. And David mourned for his son every day. And the son that he's talking about is Absalom. See, so Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. And the soul of King David longed to go forth unto Absalom. Like he did, he wanted to. He really did. But you see, David had already peeped something when Absalom came and asked him to go out to the field. See, Absalom's anger had passed the place of just righteous anger. He was now angry unto murder. And maybe David knew, if I go out here, you're going to kill me too, because he probably thinks that I didn't do enough. And so he doesn't go forth, but he mourned for his son. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. And the soul of David longed to go forth unto Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, seeing he was dead. See, David was sad. He rent his clothes, and I'm sure he obviously went into mourning for the king's sons. But he didn't seem to be to a point of so angry with Absalom that he was going to do something to him. But see, there was this disconnect. These children didn't really understand, one, how the law was applied, and then what their father's heart was. They saw their father as a warrior, and they knew their father as king, and they knew their father as their father. They weren't afraid to come to him, but the heart of their father sometimes may have seemed to be concealed from them. And then they can have their own mind and their own thoughts about him. And this whole time, David wanted to go forth, longed to go forth. The soul, the deepest part of him, wanted to go forth and to Absalom because he understood what Absalom did and he understood why he did it. And knowing that Amnon was dead, he felt like there was finally peace, but he doesn't go. And it could be for those reasons of wisdom. He can't go to Talmai into another kingdom. And he doesn't know if these people have also consorted against him. And so Absalom's actions create a distance between him and his father that will continue on throughout 2 Samuel. And David has immediately after the act and the proclamation of a sword dividing his house has seen what presumptuous sin can do to not only the heart of himself, but also to the nation. The whole household is in uproar. Now you have a wife who's, you have a wife and the other wife's son has killed this person's son, but then this wife her son has raped this. And it's like, oh, there's drama and there's trauma and turmoil. And now our eyes have been turned from serving Yah to deal with issues and internal affairs that are weakening the nation and the kingdom day by day. There's no easy way to really end this text except for David was comforted. David had peace concerning what happened to Amnon. It was the execution of being cut off, and he saw Yah's hand in all of it. He knew the consequence for what Amnon did, and he saw it all happen, and he was sad. I'm sure that Absalom had to be the one to act in that way, or chose to be the one to act in that way, and didn't wait to see the judgment of Yah, or maybe this was the judgment of Yah. And he's probably hoping that, okay, this is the worst of it. We have to be careful about what we do in our homes, what we allow in our homes, what we allow around our children, what we hold our peace on, what we speak on, and what we act on as a people and as a nation, and how we try to circumvent Yah's system and the times when we don't fully make aware Yah's judgment. We are rebuilding, and it's going to take a lot of trust in Yah and faith in Yah in ways that we have never imagined. The faith of our nation has to strengthen. The faith of our women and our men has to strengthen so that we trust Yah to do what he said he's going to do. And we don't begin to take our anger and our hatred and our hurts and our trauma into our own hands, and that we don't hold on to them so tightly that they render us ineffective for the kingdom, and that we only view the Bible and scripture through a trauma responsive, trauma imposed lens. We have to be able to view scripture through a whole and righteous lens as Yah views it, and to understand that we live in a world of wickedness and in a world of things that seem to turn our lives upside down. And we have to be able to return to Yah and allow him to be the one to work and act on our behalf. We have to. All right, I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this lesson that this lesson would be heavy and that we would head over to Patreon to continue this discussion. To continue this discussion further, you do not have to be signed up for Patreon to come over to the Patreon platform. There will be a link there. I also mentioned that I am not a licensed therapist. I am not trained in trauma response to that degree. So there will be a licensed therapist and social workers in the room. We are not going to use this platform, though, to necessarily unpack people's trauma because we don't want to further trigger one another. We have space to ask questions concerning the issues in the text today, and maybe other issues concerning the topic as it has been presented. And then if there are individuals who are trained within our community, I know a few who would not mind, we can ask for people's emails. And if you need therapy or training on how to get through particular traumas, we can hook you up with people who are professionals and who can help you work through that. And I don't know what their fees and things are, but I feel like a workman in that capacity or any capacity is worthy of their hire. So we won't use this as anybody's personal therapy session, but as a place to unpack and come together and discuss within a controlled space the things that we have learned about today. And then we will move further as a community, we being Royal Roots, for those who need trauma responsive care or therapy. We will hook you up with the people that are Hebrews and are trained and skilled in that particular gifting. Thank you for your support. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share. And if you'd like to support, there is information in the links below. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Over.